Hello, good people who are watching our Nerds Make Media YouTube channel. I recently posted a film about Chesapeake Bay watermen, and there were many comments from people who had actually worked on the Chesapeake Bay, even some people who knew the people who were in the film. It was a US government short film. And some people asked me to find more. So I went to the National Archives recently and I found several really cool films about the Chesapeake Bay. This one that I want to share with you is about 16 minutes long and it's called Heritage of the Chesapeake. It was done by the United States Navy Photographic Center and it features skipjacks in 1964 oystering on the bay out of Cambridge, Maryland. Apparently, at that time, it was a law in Maryland that you had to have a sailboat to dredge for oysters because the populations were diminishing so much. They made that as a conservation effort. But many of the skipjacks in this film were, according to the narrator, built in the 19th century, and it's just amazing. It shows their day from beginning to end. I think you're going to enjoy it a lot. If you do, please subscribe to our channel, share this with other people who are interested, and tell us in the comments what other films you'd like to see on Nerds Make Media. This is in a playlist that we call Public Domain Films. These are films that were made by the US government, funded by you, the taxpayers, and I'm sharing them here as a public service because many of them are not available elsewhere on YouTube. I will be posting some additional Chesapeake Bay films in the next few weeks. I've even found some early ones from the 1920s that are silent. So please enjoy Heritage of the Chesapeake.
The skipjacks that dredge oysters from the bottom of Chesapeake Bay have been a part of Maryland's way of life for more than 100 years. These picturesque boats, which have evolved as the best type for dredging oysters under sail, are slowly disappearing. For a century, Maryland law has required oyster dredgers in the Chesapeake to work only under sail as a conservation measure to preserve the oyster population. But because the oyster beds in the past have been scraped too clean, the number of good beds, or rocks as they are called, has diminished. With them have gone most of the skipjacks, sails hooped to raking masts, pulling their dredges back and forth across the bottom. Less than 100 remain to recall a nearly vanished heritage. Many of these remnants of the last working sailboat fleet in America were built before the turn of the century. Their proud bows may turn aside the salty bay water for only a few more years. For as long as oyster boats have sailed the bay, rugged men have scraped a living from the bottom. From November to March, from sunup to sundown, in fair weather and foul, as long as the wind is good, they dredge from the Chesapeake and its tributaries, one of America's favorite delicacies. When the oysters are plentiful and the market is good, the living is good. Often the living is not very good. Hour after hour, the dredges come aboard. The marketable oysters are culled out, and the rest shoveled back. Slowly, the day's catch grows. Some days, at the beginning of the season, on a good rock, a boat can catch 5 bushels each lick. More often, though, it takes 5 or 6 licks to get a bushel. After each lick, the captain brings his boat about and tacks back across the rock for another lick. Dredging back and forth at random ensures that the bottom will not be scraped clean, that some oysters will be left to reproduce themselves. After a long morning of hard work, the crew gathers in the small cabin.
Huh? Yeah, but them steps not. So, I leave enough to load me. Half load me. I load her, and leave enough to half load her again, and go back next day, be raining or blowing, and go right back and get another job. And I made a little bit of money.
The boat is allowed to rest, hove to. Hearty meals aboard oyster boats are made to order for hungry men.
Will it tell you what I done? No. Did it tell you? Oh. I raised $1.25 on it. No. He come home, did he? Yeah. Them popes, they went in Oxford, they wide open, tied up. Did he? Yeah, I went down there and,
Every man who is known as Skipjack will tell you that every inch of its rugged hull is pure boat, solidly put together, strong and true. At home, the families of the oystermen wait for the boats to return. Cambridge, Maryland is one of the small Chesapeake Bay towns that has harbored sailing ships for more than 100 years. The oyster industry is a principal source of livelihood for the people of Cambridge. that shuck oysters know just where to pry, where to twist, where to cut. Dragging dredges from both sides of his boat, the skipjack captain needs a practiced eye and a hand that knows the response of his boat to the various moods of wind and water. When the last licks of the day have been made, some of the skipjacks trim their sails and set a course for a nearby cove, where they'll drop anchor for the night. Others sail for home to sell their oysters to a dockside packing plant. Small boats with inboard engines, yawl boats, push the skipjacks into harbor.
You got enough eyes on there to hold the queen bird. Yeah, boy. I thought it was big. No, your stern line's got a hole. These some are coming in. There's something up. Yeah, you got to slack off on the stern there a little bit. Don't get it. They're going to fall, be way off.
Unloading the boats, some heavily laden, others not so lucky, often lasts long after the sunset. On weekends, the harbor holds its dwindling collection. The skipjacks moored together speak quietly. They speak of salt spray and sun, of icy wind and battering rain, of sparkling waves and strong breezes that have heeled them over until their rails slice through the water. They speak of the men who built them to do a job, and of the men who sailed them, of nights crisp and clear, of the smell of countless oysters on their decks. They speak of early mornings when their ancient silhouettes move slowly toward the bay, and of the gentle evening winds that have brought them back so many times. And they speak of years long past, when their numbers were so great that a man could walk from one boat to another across the harbor. Every season, one or two are retired. The winter months may bring cold and rain, sleet and snow. Yet, each day of the season, as they have done for generations, the men of Maryland's oyster fleet take their skipjacks out into the Chesapeake to meet the sunrise.